Holy moly. That was quite the game. I did not anticipate we might be talking about a win at Murrayfield as one of Ireland's greatest days, but that win at Murrayfield, Rory, is one of Ireland's greatest days.
Yeah, when Andy Farrell, who has lived his entire adult life and even before that, from the age of 16, been a professional sportsman and achieved an incredible array of things across two codes and then went into coaching and has been a successful Lions coach and many other things, says that in terms of character, that was the greatest day of his career. Or the best team performance he's been a part of. It says an awful lot, and for so much, everything that could go wrong did go wrong, and they still won the game against a team that threw everything at them. A team who, with their whole hopes and dreams were on the line. They were probably, I thought Scotland probably edged the first half, and they went in probably buoyant at half time, and yet Ireland were the ones who came out and broke Scotland and did it with well trodden. Everyone knows the story now of Josh Van der Veer throwing it the line out and Cian Healy scrummaging at hooker, but it bears repeating how unusual that was and how most teams will be thrown off track by it. The mental strength of this team, the adaptability. Andy Farrell talks an awful lot about the no excuses mentality that they have, and it's easy to talk about that stuff, but to actually enact it and to do it regularly, to do it repeatedly, to get themselves in bad scenarios and come out the right side of them all the time. It speaks to the culture that he's built along with Gary Keegan and Paul O'Connell and all his backroom team. It speaks to a group of players that I don't know if we've ever had a group of players playing for Ireland who've had this level of belief in what they could do. We've had great teams and great players before, but they seem to be unbreakable, which is obviously, touch wood, because there's another big game coming this weekend and there's a lot coming down the line. But right now, you just have to sit back and admire them. They're phenomenal.
Gordon, even Andy Farrell and his insatiable desire for adversity. Even Andy Farrell said some way during that 80 minutes, this is actually enough adversity.
Yeah, I'd say, it kind of, Ireland earned the victory on a number of different fronts. Scotland in some way broke themselves trying to beat Ireland, so that when actually Ireland kind of fell, started creaking at the seams. Like I think when Ronan Kelleher went off and Cian Healy came on, and was probably around 46, 47, 48 minutes just into the second half, Ireland, and then Gibson Park came on and added that intensity. Scotland just didn't have another gear to go to where Ireland did. So there's so much in that belief that players are giving each other within that squad is so impressive. And you can just look for what Scotland brought on versus what Ireland brought on and the impact they had. As much as the guys who I suppose the guys who started the game, brought that intensity. The guys who finished it, like they really did pull away from Scotland. And I kind of wrote that last week in the build up to this game. It's like, how long can Scotland? It always felt like it was a question of how long Scotland could stay with Ireland, and would Ireland be able to pull away? And yeah, they were.
Something I wouldn't usually do, but this was such a madcap game. Just to recap in broad terms the first half, because I want to chat to you about the first half and then we'll get into the madness of the second. So this is a very broad summation, but first minute or two Scotland started well and then Ireland got on top. So first 10 minutes is Ireland really on top. There was the try that wasn't with one of the great rugby laws. I'm inclined to agree with Peter O'Mahony when he said if they want to play with a new ball, that's their problem. But it was Ireland's problem too. Doris falls on his hip. That first 10 minutes Ireland come away with 3 points. There was player bundled out of touch by Lowe and Ireland got on top. So it was 3-0. And then you would have to say, and we might pause here and you can give us your take on this, from about that 10th minute until 24 minutes when Peter O'Mahony boots the ball up the pitch. For those 14, 15 minutes, Gordon, Scotland look very, very good. They're stressing the Irish defence. They make steady gains from midfield to 5-metre line. Stuart Hogg's put into touch by James Ryan. You might remember he helped Johnny Sexton out. And then Hugh Jones does score the try on 17 minutes. Dan Sheehan limps off 18 minutes. And Scotland come again for another 4, 5, 6 minutes. Now that period, I'm thinking Scotland look very, very good. They're getting quick ball. Was that down to Scotland being very good, or was there something in the Irish D that you didn't love?
No, it's Scotland being very good. And I think you have to, we have to be very careful. Not careful. We just have to not get completely confirmation bias and kind of rammed up our own holes and go like we're if another team scores against us, it's because we did something wrong. Sometimes other teams will do their build of play was absolutely fantastic. Paluto in the center, like he gives them such a balance in the as a second playmaker outside there. His running lines, his ability to straighten. So if you even just go back and look at some of the build-up play in that period you're talking about, when he gets in that second line, his ability to straighten up and then release the ball, it really stresses defenses because they get stuck on their feet, and that really hurt Ireland out wide. And that's just good, simple skills and simple passing execution. So I think they were really good value for it. They could have probably, I think, where they will look at it and go, that was when they needed to capitalize on what you would, in inverted commas, qualify as a defensive lull from Ireland, where they were in the ascendancy, but they still only got one try in that period. So to be they're in the moniker of, you know, the number one team in the world, you've got to be brilliant both sides of the ball. And I think a player, you know, if you mentioned, you've name checked him already, a guy who was really good in this match was Peter O'Mahony. And I actually spent the first 20 minutes watching Peter O'Mahony, and I was kind of looking at him going, because he and probably I've been guilty of it as well, you don't give him necessarily the praise that he gets, because you kind of go, well, what does he do? Because you really have to look for what he does. Everything, even from a line-out lift, that he gets the extra inch for James Ryan to win a ball, to just being a pain in the arse at rucks, to being that glue between two defenders that doesn't necessarily make a tackle, but he defends space. He was phenomenal in that game, and in that passage when Scotland were in there, he was everywhere.
Yeah.
And I think Ireland just they frustrated Scotland in that period. And then that's what I mean by, say, Scotland bashing themselves against Ireland, like almost that, you know, tied against the rocks kind of thing. And Ireland only creaked once. And then when Ireland went again, Scotland didn't have an answer.
And after that Hugh Jones try, as I mentioned, Rud, they come again, they're on top. It's O'Mahony does get that boot to a ball. One of those small things that in real time you don't think to yourself, that's hugely significant. But when you're watching the game back this afternoon and you know the flow of the game, you're like, well, that intervention turned the tide, chased after it, Ireland get on the ball, Hansen scores that try 3 minutes later, and suddenly it's 8-7 after Scottish dominance. There you go. That was but a taste of the full rugby conversation. As usual, you can get the full chat wherever you get your podcast. It's waiting for you right now.